Hello and welcome to Bev's Talks. I'm Bev Short and I'm your host. Chronic disease is a burden to nations worldwide, with cardiovascular disease being the leading cause of death and diabetes on the increase. Stress and depression are often seen as precursors to both of these diseases. But in the past 10 years, health psychologists have been looking at how the arts and creative activities can reduce the incidence of stress and depression as a means to lessening the burden of chronic disease. Which leads me to my guest today, Venezuelan-born Blanca Pauliukevicius. I hope I've said that right, Blanca.
That's great.
Who runs Eco Art Journeys, which is a travel company that uses the healing power of art, nature, and philanthropic travel to create personal transformation and social change. So, welcome, Blanca. You're in Los Angeles, though, aren't you, darling?
Yes, in Los Angeles, California. And thank you, Beth, for having me in your show.
You're very, very welcome. You do amazing work, I feel, with your travel company. So before we talk about the work that you do, can you tell us a bit about how you got to the point where you actually wanted to create this business in the first place?
Yes. So I worked for the last 20 plus years in the public and private sector, as well as the higher education sector in the finance field. I was an auditor in Venezuela, and then in the last few years in the US, I worked as a finance manager and worked pretty hard. As you know, those are very demanding jobs. And I ended up injured at work, which led to my being placed off on a medical leave, which then also led to some bouts of depression and just the chronic pain and, the difficulties of moving my body. And it was really, it was a struggle. So during that process, that was about 2 years ago, I started reaching out for support, and I started coaching, and basically just got the help I needed in terms of the mental and the mindset shift kind of assistance. That led me to start healing the issues that I needed to heal that initially brought me to a place of burnout. And the silver lining on this horrid journey with being on a medical leave in workers' comp was that I found my true calling. I began healing, and I realized that my purpose was to help and empower other women by creating a safe space for them to do the soul work that they needed to do to heal, and then to nourish their minds and their bodies and soul in order to reconnect with themselves and align with their life's purpose. So that was more or less how I got there.
Yeah. So you got pretty depressed, didn't you? But can I just ask, your burnout? Did your burnout, do you feel, came before your injury? So your injury, in a way, was a consequence of the way that you'd been living with, and you got to the point where your body was just giving up?
Right, because when you don't have healthy boundaries in your life, especially at work, you put up with, abusive situations at work, you overwork, you become a workaholic and whatever, and then that stress and all of that pressure is received in your body, your mental health, your body, and you end up, having injuries and being just broken because the demands that are placed on ourselves, and if you don't have good boundaries, then it translates usually in burnout.
So this is a recurring theme I found, with women these days, is that we push and push and we don't listen to our bodies. We're not listening to those signals. So you were one of those people, yeah?
Yes, I wasn't very good at listening to my body. I always been very driven, very goal oriented, very determined. I have a lot of energy, so I just pour myself at, in work, and that eventually led to, burnout and having, work injuries in the spine and all of that. So right now, what I did was just to help, myself in this process. I started basically spending more time in nature, like walking at the beach, just taking photography, and like I taught myself to paint, which I really, really enjoy now. I never thought myself as a creative person. I always thought myself as an analytical person, and now I ended up, in the other spectrum. And then I joined art retreats and just basically started studying different ways of self-care and self-compassion and stress management, as well as mindful moving meditations such as Qigong and Tai Chi. And basically, I began taking care of my health that way and healing and reconnecting with my body, which I had ignored for a long time and didn't take the rest that I needed and the work balance that I needed.
So when you were in that state of depression, how did you manage to pull yourself up enough to think, okay, well, I'm going to go and try this, or I'm going to go and try and decide that was what you actually needed to do?
Yes, I mean, aside from therapy, obviously, I needed additional help. Like I wanted to, I felt like I was blind. I couldn't see where to go. I was very worried about my career future because I had, a career that I could potentially not continue to do. So I decided to get some coaching, which was more, laser to what I was going through, more type of laser treatment to what I was going through. And that coach helped me a lot in terms of identifying my fears, my passions, and really learning to listen to my body and connecting with myself and realigning my life. And so that's how I designed this combination of my passions, the vision of helping other women, and my mission to, for social change and empowering. And that's how I created Eco Art Journeys, which is a wellness and art retreat company with a philanthropical aspect to it.
Okay, so the people that are attracted to your style of retreat, what kind of people are they then? Are they people like you were?
Potentially, yes. I mean, some this is specialized for women. I think I would say middle-aged women who are really not happy with how they're leading their lives, not fulfilled with the work they do, people who just are not in alignment with their purpose, with how they like to live life. I personally I consider myself a gypsy soul. I have a gypsy soul. So what I did was design this business that would allow me to travel and allow other people that love to travel also to come over and explore a different area, and then also take care of themselves, nourish themselves through the soul work. I develop a curriculum for the soul work that we do in our retreats. And then we do our journaling to process that work, because sometimes it's really hard for that to come out. So we do journaling, we do art journaling, we spend time in nature, and then we do a service component in the communities that we retreat at, in which we assist and empower local women and children in developing communities that they just need, they need the most basic things, that we have most of those things. And so we empower them by teaching them English, by training them in financial literacy. So that's, and different types of vocational training to make them more self-reliant and also to help them fight poverty. So that's how we want to achieve social change. But also what happens is something beautiful, that the women really are impacted. The participants are really impacted by this work, because it's just not about them, you know.
So this isn't in America, is it? It's in Nicaragua. So
This is done all over the place, not only in America, it's abroad in Central, South America. It's going to be done in Canada, in France and Spain. So it's going to be all over the world.
Oh, okay. I thought it was only going to be in Nicaragua. So you're going to be going into different communities around the world doing similar work. Oh, amazing. Amazing.
Yes, so,
I thought it was amazing that you were doing it in Nicaragua, let alone trying to set it up all over the world. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So my vision is actually to be able to graduate people from these type of activities and retreats and training, so that they can later implement the same type of empowerment and help in their local communities or abroad as well, so that it can create a ripple effect throughout the world.
Right, that's amazing. So tell me about some of the work that you've done personally with the women in Nicaragua, because I've seen photographs of you over there. So what's been happening in Nicaragua of late?
Yes, so we went there, and we I gave them a financial literacy workshop. So I explained, so basically when people don't have anything, all they get is going to be to supply their basic needs. So what we did was to show them how to change that mindset to first generate more revenue for themselves, like maybe working with the tourists or creating some tours or learning how to do massage therapy so that they can give massage and then be paid in dollars. So that activates their local economy and themselves, so they can provide for their families, and then, just fight poverty, basically. So I gave them, once they start getting these funds, they need to know how to manage it, because otherwise they'll just, just buy food or buy a bunch of clothes or things like that. So what we did was to help them see, how to run their business, basically, how to cover their basic needs, how much it costs to cover their basic needs, and then from there, how to save, to reinvest the money into their craft or into their activities that they do, and so plan ahead for the future. So, and that was an eye-opener for them. They were very grateful. They were so excited. I gave them a bunch of ideas on what they could do with their craft to showcase them at the different hotels. And also there were other people who did some like jewelry workshops, so they can learn how to do jewelry with different, new materials and things like that. So yes, it's a lot of different vocational trainings and English, so they can then interact with the tourists at the level that the tourists are used to. And also that provides an opportunity for the retreat participants to experience the community and learn the culture. Is this not a resort stay type of retreat? It is in part because we spend some time pampering ourselves and doing the healing work, but then there is another part, that's the service component, that is really to help these women, empower them, show them that this life is possible for them as well, and then continue. So people, what happens with people is that they leave completely changed. They leave the place very touched emotionally. It's very like heart expanding. It's heart wrenching and heart expanding at the same time, because you see how much poverty there is out there. But what happens is a wonderful effect, that is that these women start collaborating with each other from their own countries. They come from different places, and they start creating things to help and donate there, or talking to friends and getting donations out to them. Like I talked to somebody and she wants to donate the sewing machines. Or different people. Like I decided to put my art out there and created a t-shirt campaign to sell the products and fundraise for the house fund.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, different initiatives that come out of there, when you see people thriving and getting really connected with impacting someone's life in a positive way.
Mm. So these women that you are helping, I mean, they're not like you and me. They don't have any kind of privileges, do they? They have no partners. They're generally on their own, aren't they? And they have children an awful lot of the time. Can you describe what kind of way that they live, so people get an idea of how different it is for these women to our lives? Because really, we are extremely privileged.
We are extremely privileged, and when you get there and you see the state they live in, it's very hard, I have to say. In this particular town in Nicaragua, this might be one of the poorest areas in the country, and they live on dirt. Their houses are made out of like plastic trash bags. They cook in very unsanitary conditions because they don't have running water. Their husbands usually, apparently this culture, the husband impregnates them and leaves, apparently that's the trend there. So they basically have a bunch of children. They look very run down because they have very little nutrition, if any. And so it's very precarious. So when you see that, but you see their spirit, they see the children's, like, it was something really extreme when I went into their houses, and I was sharing with them, and one of the kids grabbed with his dirty little hands, and he grabbed the only meal that he had, like a piece of fish, and he handed it to me. With his dirty little hands, a piece of fish that perhaps was the only food that he had for the day, and he gave it to me. He wanted to give me all he had. So that was really hard. It was heartbreaking to see and to experience. But it also shows you that, like, all they have, they can give it away. They're that happy, they're that content. Of course, they want to live better. They want to have a different life. They feel pretty much abandoned. So any help, they are super gracious. They're super grateful. Also, the women there the first day that we interacted, some of them were very shy. You can see the trauma in their eyes, two little children, one in each side. She could barely talk. After we did the budget financial literacy workshop, and after we did the art journaling workshop, the third day she was smiling. She uttered words. She was, giving me an embrace because she was so grateful. So you can see how their lives, and their eyes are filled with hope.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's hope, isn't it? It's like you're giving them some hope so they don't feel victims in their own lives. I think that the word...
They always beg you, like, please come back, come back. You, like, don't forget about us. I said, I could never, even if I wanted, I could never forget about you.
No. So this is not your average retreat, is it? You're using the tools that you have learned from your own life experience, your art, being in nature. Do you do things like yoga and meditation at these retreats as well?
Right. So Tai Chi and Qigong, that are very healing and transformative practices that are, millennial practices. There are yoga classes as well with a certified instructor. And then we do the soul work. So a regular program would be yoga or Tai Chi in the morning, is some of the soul work aspect of it, and then some time alone in nature to reflect and kind of let us sink in. And then we could do an afternoon of activities with the ladies, or it depends of what we can coordinate with the nonprofit organizations that we that we connect and collaborate with. So yeah,
studies have been done, haven't they, about the healing power of nature.
Yes.
Can you just tell us a little bit about that? Because I'm always waxing lyrical to my clients about getting out in nature, and they kind of look at me like, but it is incredibly good for you, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, there is a Stanford-led study that shows how nature affects well-being. I mean, there are many studies. If you Google them, you can see this is a very powerful healing tool. This Stanford-led study finds that walking in nature yields measurable mental health benefits and might reduce the risk of depression. Nature heals and soothes and restores, and it helps you connect with yourself. And changing not only your mood, but how your nervous system reacts, and also your endocrine system and your blood pressure, the muscle tension, the immune system. It really impacts all of this system. So, and art has had the therapeutic and healing properties for the longest time. People use art for healing purposes, and even for articulating what we can't with words sometimes.
I can't draw, I can't paint, I'm rubbish at that. I did photography.
Well, that's what I used to say.
I was a photographer.
I'm telling you, all I used to draw was a stick man.
Yep, that's what I do.
That was me for the longest time, and I had that in my mind. No, I can draw, I can paint, forget that. I never been creative. It's not so. We are all creatives, and we're all healers. So it's just a matter of really playing with it and discovering and letting it flow out of you, because we all think we're not, but we are.
Well, I've seen some of your paintings, and your paintings are lovely. But you've been doing something, you mentioned your T-shirts earlier as a way to raise money for these women in Nicaragua. So what are you doing with the T-shirts? You're putting your artwork on the T-shirts, yeah?
So what I decided to do, I was at first a little self-conscious about my art, like every artist has that, right? But I decided to actually use it for empowering other women. So what I did is I put it on T-shirts and sweatshirts and tote bags, and created a campaign for people to buy that stuff, and the proceeds will be 100% of the proceeds will be donated to the Padre Ramos Women Collective in Nicaragua.
If you get the chance, have a look at Blanca's website. So what is your website, Blanca?
It's at www.ecoartjourneys.com.
Yeah, and I know for myself that every time I go on that website, I look at it and go, I've got to go.
Well, you have to come with me.
I really want to do it, because it just looks so, a lot of the time you look at retreats, right, and they look, they've got the chaises out, they've got the lounges by the pool. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in, I suppose, going deep, doing the stuff that you were talking about, exploring aspects of myself that I think I'm crap at, like drawing and painting, and also being there to help other people as well, and empowering other women at the same time in beautiful surroundings.
Exactly. It is just the perfect medicine, I'm telling you. I tried it worked. Everyone that tries it says it works. People come back really empowered and inspired and transformed, and their brains start going like, what can I do to help? Well, how can I, just people develop this sisterhood, this sisterhood that they want to collaborate with each other, how we can, put together our efforts to come and change these people's lives. You can just by changing one of those lives, one of those women's could be the next major of that city in the next, 10, 20 years from now, who knows? Because of that little support or that little push,
I know, exactly. I my last interview with Catherine Switzer, she was saying the same thing, the runs that she's put together in, developing countries where women will go out and run with no shoes at all. And then at the end, they're given a medal, they're given a t-shirt or a certificate or whatever it may be, and they suddenly feel like somebody.
Yes.
And that's then when they go on to do other things.
Yes, you have no idea the look in their eyes when I took their photo profile. I took like their portraits.
Yeah.
I took like a photography session of them, and they like their whole demeanor changed. They felt like, some, they didn't have a mirror, not even a mirror. Like, it's pretty amazing. And don't worry, we're going to be in New Zealand as well. So
you can help me. You can help me. So anyway, Blanca, it's been really fantastic having you on. Now, apart from your website, which you've told us about, you're on Facebook, yes?
Yes, so Eco Art Journeys is also on Facebook. You can like our page there. And if you mention this program, we'll give you 10% discount on our upcoming retreats.
Oh, do I get that too?
Oh, yeah, baby. That's a big deal. And I also want to give you my other website for coaching. It's bravelivingcoaching.com. Okay. And that is for women who require or desire an extra TLC, after the retreats or aside from the retreats. Right. If they want more, more work one-on-one or a particular program that I can put together. So, yeah. And that one has also the Facebook page with the same name.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I would love to, I'd just like to congratulate you on what you're doing, because I think it's really, really fantastic, and that was why I wanted you to come on, because it's not just any old retreat, is it? It's I think it's amazing work that you're doing, and you're doing amazing work for the people who go to the retreats, and you're also doing amazing work for these other women in the local community. So I applaud you for that.
It's a win-win, and also what I'll be doing is also I'll be planning a customized retreats for coaches who need to connect with nonprofit organizations to plan out their donation campaigns for tax planning purposes.
Oh, wow.
Because a lot of people are making money and they don't know what to do with their money at the end of the year when they owe a big tax bill. Mm-hmm. So that is another way to connect entrepreneurs with worthy causes and help them with their tax planning and have them connect and help and empower. So it's a big circle.
Sounds like something for me as well, Blanca.
And that's my expertise. So my expertise is in tax auditing and planning and budgeting. So, that's where the full circle comes.
You are a very clever girl, very clever girl. I would just like to say thank you so much for coming on. And I really hope that lots of women are going to be looking at what you're doing and taking advantage of, working with these other women on retreats and things. So fantastic. And thank you so much.
It's a pleasure having you and knowing you and just being here with you and having you witness that. It's also an honor.
Okay. Well, thank you. And thanks everybody for watching this episode of Bev's Talks. If you found it interesting and you think other people might find it interesting, then please share it. Let's get the word out so we can help all the women in the world. And if you want to find out more about me, you can find me at bevshort.com and about all the work that I do with women over 40. So once again, thanks everybody for watching, and thank you, Blanca. Bye-bye.
Bye.